Welcome everyone to Friday Live at 5. I apologize because I don't know if it was because of that Amazon cloud glitch earlier in the week. Somehow Facebook was put a thing on my feed where it looked like we were going to do a collie subject or a dog subject. But we are in fact going to do this subject here. Although serendipitously, how do you say that? The topic of both of those is the same, just finding the freedom and easiness of using watercolor and then snugging it down at the end. So what we're going to do today, this is a view out the window at in Saint-Remy in Provence at Saint-Paul-de-Mazoux, where Van Gogh convalesced after his radical DIY earectomy. This is the room that he stayed in, and then directly across the hall, they provided him with a lovely little studio, which my first impression of it was, wow, that's the same size as the room I work in. And then the view out this window was down into this gorgeous little cloister. What a wonderful thing. And here it is from ground level. And we're pretty much going to be looking down on it like that. So the freedom thing here, I want to actually start perhaps painting this before I do any drawing, because just to enjoy the freedom that the watercolor will provide. And then as I add in we always work light to dark. As I add in the darker marks, this thing will begin to actually appear. So it's not going to be a very exotic palette. It's going to be pretty much a limited palette, yellow ochres, a more neutral version of yellow ochre, perhaps a cooler version of yellow ochre. So I will try to remember to mention the colors that I do. But yeah, I know it seems to get a big brush like this and just start slopping paint on a piece of paper seems a little dangerous, but all we have to do is make that decision about where is it, how big is it, what shape is it, and then what color is it. So this is going to be fairly easy. I mean, you can sort of try to channel your inner Mondrian. It's a lot of verticals and horizontals and things like that. So I'm going to, a little bit past a third, maybe about a halfway, I'm just going to put some pale ochre color up here, maybe a little more on the right than the left, and then at the bottom I'm going to go into a more lighter version of that, maybe with a little bit of neutral tint or even some Holbein lavender. Now we're on a white paper, so this is going to look dark for starters, but as we add stuff in later, it'll become what it is. Okay, so, oh dear, what's this? Oh goodness. Looks like the iPad is dying on me. All right. Oh, okay, I'm going to have to go to plan B here. Let's get another one. Shoot. Wouldn't you know it? Okay. I'm sorry that you won't be able to see this as easily as this one. It looks like the screen is dying or something on me. Gosh, what a mess. I'm going to have to shut that off. So I apologize for that. All right, back to what we were doing. Okay, now over here, mindful of everything that's lighter, everything that's darker, I'm going to put in some, maybe a little bit of burnt sienna in the yellow ochre mix. It's 140-pound cold press paper. Let's put a little more yellow ochre in the bottom of that and some water just to get some variation. Now right about in here, now you notice I made the decision that, well, let's get some red iron oxide and some, maybe some orange or some red. Come back and pull across here. Now, and I'm not worried about this migrating down because that area is going to be darker, right? Hi, Becky. Oh boy, what a time for my iPad to die. So, okay, that's doing that. The blue will come in. Oh, let's get that chimney pot. So here's one of those things. This is the thing I always try to talk about. Where is it? How big is it? Then what color is it? Okay, I've got the color, but we can very easily visualize halfway would be there, so this is a little bit to the left of halfway. There we go. Easy decisions to make. Now I've got some green going on down here, a splotch of green. It's about there. And it's, okay, it's going to be about that big. So let's get some ultramarine. Some Nicolazo yellow, or maybe some Nicolazo yellow and some black. I'm doing the lighter color in this mix. So it's roughly a elongated diamond shape. Maybe it's a little bluer at one end. And I'm going to, now this, if it dribbles down in here, that's okay, because that's going to be darker, right? So there's a little bit of greens from the cloister garden coming up here, maybe a little bit over there. So where else do I need to work? There is a little bit more warmth. So a bit more yellow ochre here. A little bit there. What are we doing? Okay, so when it gets dry, I will pop in the blue up there. So yeah, it looks like a tie-dyed mess, right? So how about a little bit of lavender? These lovely faded out. Here's halfway. When it's above halfway, about how big is it? That's too dark. So pull a little bit of that out. I've got a line here. Come back. I'm going to have to change the settings on this. Where is it? Okay. I apologize for this. What a time for a thing to break out like that. Display and brightness. Auto lock. Never. Back to photos. And there it is. Okay. This is going to be in here. Okay. And this is going to be in here. And that's going to be a little above half. You know, the shadows, because they're kind of bluish, I am going to take the liberty to underpaint them in a warm color first, even though that sounds strange. Because if you're going to have dark, cool, bluish things, sometimes it's nice to underpaint these areas in a warm color. So we're going to start with a mess. And we're hopefully going to finish something that's not a mess, but we will see. Now we have a window over here. Shutter. Oh, let's get some of that lavender. They appear to have been painted this lovely blue and then later faded. Now that shutter is very light compared to the stuff around it. So, gosh, there's a downspout of some sort coming along here. I think I need more of my sienna mix. I'm trying to be just free and draw with the brush. I mean, we draw with, you know, here's the thing. We draw with a pencil, right? Well, if you get a brush, it's a long thing with a point. So what the heck's the difference? It's all about whether you're working with the graphite or the brush, you have to make a decision about where is it, how big is it, and then what shape is it. So I'm going to go for this little archway there, there, and ooh, you know, I love the fact that this is that straight, but this dives. Okay, now what I want to do now, I think I want to dry this. I would like to let it dry on its own, but I'm not going to bore you with paint drying. So first I'll mute. Thank you, Becky. Okay, so what I was saying. Hi, Vicky. Yeah, that's a good one. So what I'm doing, I'm going to do some drawing now. And my first thing is the diving line of that level on the top, diving here. The perspective here is that since we're looking out a window on the same floor, this will be just about level through the center of that. So anything above that, like so. Anything below that, like so. Now there's like a ledge here. Here's this shutter. The muntin on the window there. Sill. There's a little, now there's a, I don't know what they call it, an architect would know. Line like that. So this would have to be like so. Okay, the window, this shutter is half closed. This shutter is flat to the wall. I'm gonna maybe make that archway a little more downspout. Sorry about the forgetting to unmute there. There's a now within this area there are three. So I'm going to pick the center of this area. Where is it? There's that. These are below that. So find the center one, then find the other two. That'll help you find the shadow as well. And then there's these potted, well, that's a shadow cast by that tree, and then there's some sort of potted herb over here. Okay, well, a fair amount of space between here and here. Another window just peeking out over there. Maybe I'll just make this a titch larger. The chimney pot comes down like so. Now we can begin to do some of the fun stuff, or at least what I think will be, I hope will be the fun stuff. Again, I'm going to keep with this big brush. I will move to a smaller brush as we go along. Well, you know, I think I'd better draw in a little bit more detail on this set of windows here. It was actually, by my estimation, a very nice facility compared to the kind of places we send people today. On the other hand, across the hall here, they had a thing where they would suspend people in canvas straitjackets and hose them down, some sort of hydrotherapy type thing, which is what at the time they thought was just the ticket, I guess. So I think I want to make a little more of my wall and I'm going to get a Oriental brush. And I'm going to start beefing up some of the things that I've done here. So a little bit more yellow ochre and perhaps some neutral tint. Ooh, it's too much. And that looks greenish, doesn't it? Well, blot that. Put a little more ultramarine in that. So I'll put some of that and some ultramarine here. I'm working my way up from lighter greens to darker greens. This area in here, I'm going to leave some of this light color for the shutter. That shutter there. Let's make it a very pale cobalt blue. A lot of water. Oh, we can go ahead and make that one that too. I'm going to put a little bit on this foreground one. It's the closest one to us, so it's going to register the most. And we'll let that dry. I need a little bit more of a sienna yellow ochre, but not maybe like a neutral tint to it. The stonework in this part of the world, the limestone, is confoundingly difficult to mix the particular color that you think you're seeing. Now, mindful of the fact that that's going to be very dark, I'm going to take some sienna and some water, and I'm going to try to make these irregular shapes. I can go through that because that's darker. I need to leave this. That gets darker. Now, what if I were to take some neutral tint and just do some of this? It appears to be just rain-soaked or mildew or something, some kind of discoloration of the stone. So I'm just looking, where is it? How big is it? What color is it? Ooh. How dark do I want to go? I'm going to go very dark up here, so it doesn't really matter. I could even take some of this and splatter it there, I think. Old stuff is wonderful because you can do stuff like this. Now I'm going to take a blotted damp brush and tease that stuff sideways. And that won't be the only one we do. Now let's take some of that neutral tint and some burnt sienna for a warmer dark color. Tease that upper soffit line because it's damp. Down here, I think I want to work more on that green of that tree. So I'm going to take some ultramarine and some yellow ochre. Maybe a little bit of cat. Whoa, no, that's wrong. Wipe that out. Put some neutral tint in it. And I'm going to try to get pushing from the side of the brush, some of the irregularity of the shape of that foliage. A bit of it down here, sometimes on the tip, sometimes on the side. Hi, Carol. Hope you're doing well. I'm going to tip in maybe some Prussian blue into that damp green that I just put down. So this is thicker in consistency than the paint that I just applied. Therefore, it's gonna pretty much stay about where I put it. Now out of that, I'm going to try and paint some of the shadows. So a cobalt and a little bit of red, or a little bit of cobalt. Let's do cobalt and a little bit of burnt sienna. Yeah. Can do that. Under here, we can do this. Doing that now. And again, I apologize for the fact that my iPad blew out. What are you going to do? So, oh, now it gets kind of warmer in there, so I'm going to get some yellow ochre, some burnt sienna. I'm going to tease in there like that. And then at the bottom of that, here is where it gets dark. So ultramarine neutral tint and burnt sienna. So just look, where is it? How big is it? What shape is it? That's the whole game. Now this comes over here, goes up, goes down to the side of that. Got some darks up in here. I'm going to get more of that. So it's a mixture of ultramarine, neutral tint, and burnt sienna. There we go. Now a little bit of water in that. Well, I'm going to take some of the water, that and some of this water over to the side. And I'm going to do the irregular cast shadow shapes of this thing casting a shadow down onto the walkway there. I hope. Wants more of a reddish tint in there. So I will push in some burnt sienna. While it's still wet. Now this shadow up here is very similar, but maybe it's a little bit more reddish, particularly out at this end. And then it gets a little bluer down at this end. Well, that's not too blue, is it? We need something, put some cerulean or some turquoise into that. All right, here we go. There's this, we can actually get a feel for how the sill is. Now I need to sneak a lot of blue into this mix and a little bit of red. That cast shadow. Twere done, twere best done quickly. Let's get another strong dark going over here. So neutral tint. Oh, burnt sienna. All right, I need that for this little archway in here, which if you look at it, it's sort of a Nike swoop or a shark's tooth. I'm going to refine that shape a bit more. And then I'm going to do this deep shade shape. Well, let's see. Let's work right to left. Ultramarine, burnt sienna, or red iron oxide. Either one will do. A little bit of shadow behind the shutters and the hinges. Let's get some more red in that. And in this case, red meaning burnt sienna. Now, about and they're a little thinner on this one. Okay, the slats and the shutters, we're going to get that in next. But the sill itself on this one, there we go. We're going to work our way towards this. A dirty red for the shady side of the chimney pot. Let's go ahead and get some blue, good bit of it. Some of our red iron oxide or some cad red. Any of the blues will do. Maybe I'll get a little bit of all of them in there. Cobalt turquoise, cerulean, cobalt, ultramarine, and red iron oxide. Maybe even a little alizarin. Oh, more cobalt turquoise. You know, I could have done that with cobalt turquoise, and alizarin might have been just the ticket for this big cast shadow up here. Yep. Get it in nice and wet. Get that oddball edge to it. It kind of cuts down here, comes up behind the downspout. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get some burnt sienna and some neutral tint, and I'm going to touch it, thick paint, and touch it in at the top here. And let that melt into what I just painted to do that soffit. How about we do, while that's collecting into what it's going to collect into, we get a little bit of the orangey or sienna colors here, and we start dry brushing the tile roof here. Leave a little bit of the lighter color behind at the foreground edge. And then get some of that dark we were using and put that right up there, right along there. Again for the shadow. Let's see, we need a there's some business here, but I think I want to play with that a little later. The interior portions of this window are going to be a little bit darker than, and greener and browner than. It's an odd olive color. Leave the mutton. Now I'm going to get the shadow underneath that shutter. The shadow underneath this shutter, which is partially closed. Here. Oh, look, goodness, there's some, get a little bit of everything to make a nondescript gray. And this buttress, I'm going to call it a buttress for lack of a better term. Now I'm going to start trying to get with these nondescript grays. I'm going to try and get an approximation of the discoloration on the wall here. And I think maybe the best thing to do is maybe splatter a bit of it. And then smear it. See if if it starts to look like that kind of stuff. And I might blot the brush and actually try to paint some of it in. Again, the whole trick is, where is it? How big is it? What shape is it? It looks like there is where the shutter is closed, it leaves a light spot. That's kind of neat. Something a little bluer over here on this side of the brush to get that irregularity. Blot the brush and just take a damp brush and pull it along. I do need to go a little darker on my greens. A good dark green is neutral tint and yellow ochre or cad yellow. Thank you, Vicky. I'm looking underneath here, and I want to connect some of the shadow shapes in the foliage with the shadow shapes in the walkway and the cloister there. Up here there is I'm just looking for, where is it? Okay, well, I'm waiting on that. I need a green that's maybe a little more distinctly green. In that pot. Trying to make my foliage look like foliage. I am going to have to make some vines down here. It's amazing in that very, very dry climate how all these things grow out of nearly nothing. Crevices and cracks and heaven, it's just so amazing. I need to have a little more on the interior side of that archway and the side of this buttress, whatever that is. Now, also, in a more shade thing, the columns here, the foliage is casting shadows on the columns there. There are whatever it is coming down along here. Again, dry brushing. Try and get the look of this thing. That is not dark enough. You know what? I'm going to have to go. I'm going to go with try kind of a clean blue. I'd love to be in that room just trying to do this. There were some canvases in there, which I looked at them, and they did not look like modern canvases that they had like gone down to whatever the French equivalent of Hobby Lobby is. And I'll show them to you. These were old canvases with tacks, not staples. And did not look like something modern to me, and I was just looking at those and I'm thinking, oh man, were those his? You know? What would happen if I... Now these things on these, the louvers on the shutters. Remember, they're going to obey perspective. Right about here, they're going to be straight. Anything below that is going to tilt this way. Anything above that's going to tilt that way. So let's get that a bit darker because it's closer to us. I'd like to do this in oil, I think. Okay, now let's go in for some really strong darks here. I'm going to have to get a small brush to do the louvers on that shutter, but I do need a greenish grayish for the back side of this shutter, which is leaning towards us. I'm going to splatter, I got to splatter some more, some dark. Try and get the lovely part about this kind of subject is that you can really, really play with it. I'm going to bring a line through there to make that shadow look transparent. And then I'm also going to get some warm darks, very warm darks, up here in these soffits. And then I need it a little bit darker here. While that's drying, I'm going to do some stuff up here. Again, there is some, what would you call it? Perspective on the tile lines, so they're going to go like that. I should just get a smaller brush. Goodness, what am I thinking? Okay. Now the bluish dark on this louvers on these shutters. They should be smaller and closer together. darker on this one on the side because it's turned against the light. Now the strong darks. A little bit of all my darkest colors. Darkest colors, is that? Light is coming from the upper left. Okay, this area could use some attention, I think. As could this. What's going on here? Let's get some water and soften that. Down here, it should be more ochre colored. The way to do that is just compare. Hey, Jimmy, how are you? Compare that gray to this gray. One is one lighter, is one darker, is one more yellowish, one is more bluish, one more reddish. What do you got? Here we go. That's what I was looking for. And again, very important thing, what is appropriate for the scale that I'm working? If it was a bigger picture, maybe I could get into a little more detail on certain things, but what's appropriate for this scale? So, okay. Some oddball things going on here. I think I might, a lot of water. And just a little bit of everything. Oh, no, I didn't want to get that. Okay, let's peel and see if that tells us anything. Yeah, I need a little more action in here, I think. Down there too. Okay, so what can we do with this business here? There are some stone or masonry lines there. There. A little bit of darkness behind there. Okay. Bit more shade under that. Oops. It's moving on me. Oh, I got a big drippy thing there I got to drink up and take it someplace. How about, what's going on with my tape? Boy, if it ain't one thing today, it's another. iPad going out. Paper moving around. Oh, thank you, Becky. Boy, I tell you, a place like this, man, you just can't go wrong. Jeez. And you can see why the guy was crazy about painting in this area. There was just so much good stuff. All of it bathed in some really nice light. So I'm just going to try to indicate some of these areas where the stucco is come away from the stonework behind it. And this is probably where I should probably think about just looking at it. I'm going to put a little bit of the irregularity in where the tiles meet the soffit line there. Okay. There we go. Okay. That's that. Take this top piece of tape off. And then get a nice beverage and look at it and say, what does it want? Wants something in there. I know what it wants. Okay. It wants a little more of that greenery. So, yeah, I like that kind of sneaking in from the top or the side maybe. And a little more color, and because everything is fundamentally geometric in this, it's nice to have a wee bit of organic, natural looking stuff there. And I think I want to make that chimney pot a little more orangey. Or maybe the foreground edge of that roof. Just a little bit more orangey. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Something like that. And maybe just a bit more in here, in there. And I'm going to call that time to look at it. He says as he puts in a couple more marks. Okay, so the idea here was when you see a situation like this, I'm going to try to get it up a little closer. Just try to see, we have more light to medium shapes than we have dark shapes, so you want to get all that, just a big nondescript area of those light things in there, shift it a little more ochre, a little more sienna, a little more cool, something like that. Then superimpose the next dark. Oops. Superimpose the next dark, superimpose the next dark. And then it's as these darks, which all are much more tiny marks, then the thing kind of, boom, jumps out at us. So hope you enjoyed that. I thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe, stay sane in this crazy world, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.